Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are. My name is Anna Rochelle, and today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. Now, in the past, you've done addition of fractions like 1 over 6 plus 1 over 6. You know that you would add the numerators, you would get 2, and the denominator would stay the same, right? Because we're adding the same type of portion together to get multiple of that same type of portion. However, when we add or subtract fractions with unlike denominators, it kind of looks a little bit different. And so let's talk about, for example, whoops, that's not proper fraction. We need a proper fraction. So like 1/2 and 2/3, right? So these guys have different denominators. And if we were to look at a circle uh, that's divided into 3 equal pieces, it would kind of look like a peace sign, right? And then if you would look at this, they're not quite the same. So we can't add 2 of these, right? And 1 of these and say we have 3 of those in total, is what would my denominator be? So we need to create common denominators. One of the easiest ways to create common denominators is literally to take the opposite denominators and multiply the fractions by the opposite denominator. What do I mean by that? I'm going to take this 2 and multiply this entire fraction by 2 over 2. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 3 and multiply this entire fraction by 3 over 3. Now, sometimes this may not be the only way to look at it, meaning like some textbooks and some teachers may not draw circles inside of circles, and it's totally fine. The idea is still the same. So I would take this 2/3 times 2 over 2 and get 4 out of 6. And then I would take my 1/2 and multiply by 3 over 3, and I would get 3 over 6. And so now with my new fractions of 4 over 6 and 3 over 6, I would go in and I would add these two. I would end up with 7 over 6. And we know that we can turn that improper fraction into a proper fraction. And we would get 1 and 1/6 as a final answer. If you're in the older grades, 7 over 6 is totally acceptable. But usually on the elementary level, most teachers want you to stay in that 1 and 1/6 area. Some teachers would take a look at a fraction, solving this type of fraction problem like this. So I'm going to actually create a new slide. So let's say I have 2/3 and 1/2. What they would do is they would take this 2 and just multiply that by 2. And then they would take this 3 and multiply this 1 by 3. And what would happen is we know that 2 times 2 is 4. And we know that 3 times 1 is 3. And we also know that our denominators are going to be 6 because we're going to multiply each of these together as well. So the idea is whenever you're drawing these fraction slides or these fraction problems with circles and lines and arrows and whatnot, you're not necessarily going to look at the exact diagram. You're mainly focusing on the concept of we need to create common numerators, the common denominators, and how do the numerators get affected when we change our denominators, right? There are always different methods that you can use in order to create common denominators. Sometimes it just makes sense to multiply, like, this 2/3, it didn't make sense for us to multiply it by any number other than 2. But if we had a problem, for example, like, 1/2 and 1/6, it wouldn't make sense for me to multiply both of these fractions by the opposite denominator because I can simply take this 1/2 and turn that into 3 over 6 and leave this 1/6 as is, right? So there's no like circles, lines, arrows, whatever. Just definitely make sure that you're focusing on looking at the specific problem and looking at the denominators and can I multiply just one of them? And if I can, great, do that. And if I can't, then go in and you can use that common denominator feature either in this method that we talked about or in this method that we talked about. All right, I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in another video. Bye.